All right, today we're going to do something really cool. We're building our very first piece of a mobile app's user interface using React Native. Yup, we're going from a totally blank file to a real component you can actually see on a screen. Let's get right into it.
So, you might be wondering, right, how on earth do you take JavaScript, a language that was born on the web, and use it to build a native app screen? If you're coming from web development or maybe even from something like SwiftUI, the approach feels a little different. But you're going to see it's also surprisingly familiar. That's the big question we're tackling today. Okay, let's start with the absolute fundamentals. To build literally anything in React Native, you first have to get your head around two core building blocks, the view and the text components. So first up, we have the view. You can basically think of a view as the fundamental container for, well, everything else. If you're a web developer, it's just like your div. That's the perfect analogy. And if you're coming from native iOS or Android, it's your basic layout block. Pretty much every screen, every little group of components, it all starts with a view. And here's what that looks like in practice. It's super simple. To actually display something, you nest a text component inside of a view. That's it. This simple, nested structure is really the foundation of all React Native layouts. This tiny little piece of code right here, that's a complete, runnable component. All right, so we've got a component. But how does our app know that this is the one it should show when it first launches? Well, that brings us to the starting component and a really crucial piece of JavaScript syntax, export default. So if you look at the top of your main app file, you're going to see this line, export default function app. Now, this isn't just some standard function declaration. It's actually a critical command that tells React Native exactly how your project is put together. So what does that actually mean? Well, export default is basically a big signpost. You're telling React Native, hey, out of all the code in this file, this app component, that's the main event. Run this one first. Seriously, without it, your app would just be lost. It wouldn't have a clue what to display. Awesome, we have content, we have an entry point. But let's be honest, it probably looks a little plain right now. So how do we style it? You know, in the web world, we'd reach for a CSS file, but React Native does things a little differently, with a very JavaScript-centric approach.
So let me introduce you to your new best friend for styling, the Style Sheet API. It's this awesome tool that React Native gives you that lets you define all of your styles right inside your JavaScript files, using a simple object syntax. It's designed to feel a lot like CSS, but with a JavaScript flavor.
Let's put these side by side because it really makes it click. On the left, you see standard CSS. On the right, the React Native style sheet version. The similarities are pretty obvious, right? Property names like font size just become camel case, so font size. And the values are just numbers or strings. So if you already know CSS, this is going to feel super intuitive.
Okay, cool, but how do we use these styles we just made? You just pass them directly to a component's style prop. As you can see here, we reference our styles object and then the specific style key we defined, in this case, text. For anyone with a SwiftUI background, this feels a lot like applying a modifier. It's a very direct way to link your style to a specific component. All right, our text is styled, but it's probably just sitting up in a corner somewhere. How do we control where things actually go on the screen? That's where layout comes in. And in React Native, we use a really powerful system called Flexbox. You know, Flexbox is the default layout system in React Native, and there's a really good reason for that. It's a model that was designed specifically for arranging items inside a container, even when you don't know their size or it might change. And this is absolutely crucial for mobile, where you have to build flexible UIs that can adapt to hundreds of different screen sizes.
So the absolute first thing to get your head around in Flexbox is flex direction. By default, it's set to column, which, as you might guess, stacks your items vertically, one on top of the other. If you want to place them side by side, you just switch it to row. That one single property controls the entire flow of your layout. Now, to position stuff within that flow, you've got two main tools in your belt, Justify Content and Align Items. Justify Content handles alignment along your main direction. So if flex direction is column, it controls the vertical spacing. Then Align Items handles alignment on the cross axis, the perpendicular direction. Once you master these two, you have precise control over pretty much any layout you can imagine. And this is where the magic happens. Check this out. This simple combination of styles is all you need to perfectly center something on the screen. Flex 1 tells the container to fill up all the available space, and then Justify Content and Align Items team up to center the content both vertically and horizontally. No complicated math, no weird hacks, just a few clean style properties. Whew. Okay, we've actually covered a ton of ground, but you now have the absolute essentials for building basically any screen in React Native. Let's do a quick recap of the UI toolkit you've just put together.
So let's just run through it one more time. Screens are built from view components, which act as containers. Content, like words, is displayed with text. All of your styling is handled right in JavaScript with Style Sheet. Layout is managed by the super powerful Flexbox. And finally, export default is what tells your app where to start. These 5 concepts, that's your foundation. And with that knowledge, you've officially done it. That is your first real React Native UI. So congratulations. You've gone from just theory to actually building something tangible you can see and interact with. So there you have it. You've got the blueprint. You understand the core pieces that you need to create a user interface from scratch, all with JavaScript. The only question left is, what are you going to build first?